You've probably heard before that all you really need to play D&D is a pen, paper, and your imagination. But that's not entirely true. There's one other key ingredient you need: friends. This is the biggest problem with D&D in my opinion. Well, not a problem, but a hurdle that players, especially aspiring players, face. Most TTRPGs are social games. You need other people to play them. So what do you do if, and I say this in the nicest way possible, you have no friends? So full disclosure, this video is sponsored by startplaying.com, and I'm going to talk about them later, since the platform literally solves the problem of having no one to play with. But first I want to explore some other options, where you can still get your D&D kick without 3 to 4 players. First off, playing D&D on your own. Now some people may scoff at this idea, but honestly it's a great way to learn and practice the game. You grab a module and play through it, imagining what the NPCs would say and imagining what your character does in response, allowing dice rolls to decide the fate of any situation. I mean, yes, it's you just making up a story using this as a guide, but it's fun finding out where these and where your own unique mind takes the narrative, though you will of course have to rebalance encounters for one person. There's also some adventure modules out there specifically made for one person, but they do tend to run more like choose your own adventure books, but they can still be pretty useful. Secondly, if you do have even 1 or 2 friends, small group D&D can also be very rewarding. Even just one DM and one player can give you that fix of socializing and collaborative storytelling. And God knows, combat runs a lot faster. There's also use of sidekicks, where the player can control an NPC as well as their own character, making the whole thing play a bit more like Baldur's Gate, but with an actual DM. But here's the thing, D&D at its heart is a social game, best played with a group of people. So just how do you do that with no one to play with? Well, that's where Start Playing comes in. And don't worry, while they are sponsoring this video, I figured I would gather some actual information about the platform and give you honest feedback about it, so you can figure out if it's something you would want to do. Startplaying.com is a website where you can find a game of D&D or other TTRPGs in seconds, like literally seconds. I'm going to choose this game here for Friday, and I'm going to choose a Daggerheart game, Critical Role's new TTRPG, which is currently in beta, because I've not played it yet, and I'm really interested in it. So this video might turn into a tiny review of Daggerheart as well. No, sorry, stay focused, Phil. Daggerheart game on Friday. I'll let you know how that goes, but first, I figured I would chat to a DM who uses Start Playing on a daily basis.
And one of the individuals in there was had a quote, something like, "If you're going to be a car mechanic, don't be an accountant." Something like that.
This is Eric Van Singel, a veteran DM on Start Playing, who very kindly allowed me to pick his brain.
Because like when you own your own business, you have to wear a lot of hats, and like, you know, opening a car shop, you want to work on cars, you don't want to work on the paperwork. And it's the same thing for jamming, right? I want to run games, you know. So Start Playing Games is the best place for me that I've found to get people who are excited, enthusiastic, and just ready to join a community and play a game. Yeah, on the player side, if I'm in the position where I'm looking for a game, it's easy for me, right? You just go to Start Playing Games, and this is the time I want to play, and bam, you know, you search and you get, these days, a ton of options. Back in the day, it was, you know, not as many people doing it. But today, if you can't find a game to play on Start Playing, I don't know, because there's just so much. I see people running like Cypher and Powered by the Apocalypse games. Alien's a big one. And of course, Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons as well. You can find just about anything you want.
When chatting with Eric, he mentioned safety tools. And I think this is the biggest fear with a platform like this. You don't know the DM, you often don't know the other players unless you book it with friends. And obviously, we established you don't have any of those. So whether you want to use them or not, it's nice to know that there are safety tools in these kinds of games, just to make sure that no one is sat in a position that they just really don't want to be in. So of course, I wanted to find out more about how Start Playing encourages the use of safety tools.
They do more than encourage it. You're required as a GM on Start Playing Games to have some level of safety tools. That might be different for each table. You know, there's lines and veils, XNO cards. There's a number of different like things that we have access to. But you can't list a game without advertising or implementing some sort of safety tool. It can be as minimal as a session 0 in a conversation about lines and veils, but at least there's a baseline there that it's expected that you do it. There's also they have a support team right? So if a player feels unsafe or has a thing, the you know they're just an email to support away from intervention. And not that that's like something that happens all the time, right? But like it's good to know it's there as both the GM and as a player.
I also just wanted to find out more about the platform in general. So I got the or COO, and co-founder Devin Chulik on the line to tell me a little bit how the site got started and its future plans. I really wanted to know how a platform like this came into existence.
I mean, because scheduling is the BBEG of tabletop gaming, right? It's actually funny. Me and my co-founder Nate, we are two sides of the same coin. I became a pro GM because people were like, "Hey, it's actually a funny story. I was running a game for some friends, teach them how to play D&D, and one of them was like, "Hey, would you actually run this from my office? They would love this." And in my head, I'm like, "That sounds like work. I don't know your coworkers. I don't want to do that." But he then said, "Our budget for things like this is around $500. And I was like, "That's perfect. That's exactly what I charge for these things like this." So I realized that there was this need, right, where people, companies or even families were looking for VMs who could do this reliably. And my co-founder, he has always wanted to play D&D, and he had tried for a year to get in a game or get his friends to play a game, and it never worked. No one wanted to GM. People who were the GMs would flake out when he went online on Roll20, or when he went online to forums. People on the forums just kind of like never showed up, and so he wanted to fix this problem too. So when we met, it was kind of like a perfect match.
And me and Devin chatted for a while about Start Playing and how it all came to be, but what really interested me is what they were planning for the future.
There is so much. We actually just launched something called Game Status, which allows like games to be like in a recruitment stage, and then games that are active. So like, hey, if I want to play something this week, you can play an ongoing active game. If you're like, I just want to find the right game, I'm willing to wait, you can find those recruiting games. That's because we want to like match expectations of players. But we want to do a bunch of international stuff. We're going to be moving into kids games. We'll eventually be moving into in-person games. There's so much still ahead of us. Start Playing has been doing a ton of partnerships. Not only do we do partnerships with like Wizards of the Coast, but also with like Evil Hat Games. We're doing partnerships with Paizo. We're doing a partnership with Brotherwise Games around the Stormlight RPG that's coming to Kickstarter soon. These are like activations are not only a chance for GMs to play new games, run new games, and get attention to them, but it's also a great place for players to finally engage in these games they've always wanted to.
And finally with Devin, I really wanted to find out why he thinks the platform is so good for players specifically.
I think it's good for players for a lot of reasons. One, think about back in the 70s, 80s, if you wanted to get into D&D, how hard that was. You'd have to order it from the back of a comic book. You'd have to have one of the few hobby stores in the country that sold D&D. There was no internet to learn how to play. There was these kind of rules that were almost like a mystery that you had to read through and figure out, or you had to play with someone who had that knowledge they could pass on. Now, there's so many ways to learn about this game, but it's still really hard to find a group of people to play. And Start Playing not only makes it easy because of finding schedules, but it also keeps people responsible and consistent. If there are toxic players in games, GMs are going to report them, and having a platform like us, we're going to remove them from the platform. Same with GMs. You have a whole history of reviews, so you can see, what is this GM's playstyle like? What do other people have to say? Having this to lean on makes it a lot more consistent, also makes gaming a lot more reliable for some of these players who are looking not only for the first game, but even some who are like, hey, I haven't played in 20 years. I want to get back into it.
And now it's Friday, and I'm literally about to go into this Daggerheart game in a second. I won't be recording this just because it's a DM and players who probably don't want a camera on them the whole time. And I just want to play some Daggerheart with no added pressure. But I promise, I will be back before you even know it. Honestly, I'll probably edit this in a way where I'm already back somehow, just waiting for myself to shut up, which might be creepy, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, okay. I did it. I played Daggerheart without any friends and without having to worry about scheduling anything or going anywhere. I just had to log onto my computer. So first off, Daggerheart is awesome, but I'll save that for another video. Secondly, I had a really good time. The DM sent me a Discord link a few minutes before the session. I jumped into the call, didn't need a camera or anything, just Discord and a mic. We had a quick lines and veils talk. We described our characters quickly, then we jumped straight into the game. The DM was also awesome at teaching everyone the rules. Honestly, I don't think I would have got a chance to play Daggerheart until its official release. So this was really nice just to be able to give it a go with short notice and without any strings attached. Now, I'm not saying start playing is for everyone. Even though they are sponsoring this video, I am going to be a little bold and say, if you don't like online play, then obviously the platform is not for you. But if you're fine with playing online, the fact you can jump on a website and find a game to play in the next few hours, or in a few days, or in a few weeks, it's incredibly convenient. And the truth of the matter is, I can totally see myself using this a ton in the future. For trying out new game systems, or even just if I have plans that fall through on a certain day and have a few hours wide open, I can just log on and play some D&D. I'll probably use it when my own plans for D&D fall through because people cancel on me. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Check out startplaying.com and thank you for watching.